I'm glad she sang about Santa Claus today. I love it when, what was it that B.A. Baracus of the A-Team used to say? Love it when a plan comes together. You know, we didn't really have a plan, but I am going to talk about Santa today, so that was perfect that you sang about Santa Claus. This time of year gets a little bit weird for church folk because we have this kind of like dichotomy of Santa and Jesus going on. You know, Christmas is all about celebrating the birth of Jesus, but then the Santa guy shows up, and more often than not steals Jesus' thunder a little bit, you know, but we've kind of made peace, I think, with the two of them coexisting. You know, when you do some research, you realize that Jesus and Santa not that much different from each other when you look at them. I want to share a few things with you. A few things that are in my book, Rants to Revelations. Available in the bookstore. 20% off. And should you buy one today, I could sign it for you. Make great table coffee book gifts for other people. It is the season after all. Hey, no one's going to blow my trumpet. I got to do it by myself. It's all right. So we have Jesus and Santa, both people who, for all we know, by all historical accounts, actually lived. Jesus, the first century Jewish rabbi, who would have gone by the name Yeshua in the Aramaic language and tradition of the time. We have Santa Claus, based on a 4th century Christian bishop, St. Nicholas of Myra. Both historical figures. Both who happened to become a lot more famous after they died than when they were alive as well. They were both known for associating with the poor and the oppressed. You know about Jesus' story, hanging out with the lepers and those who were crippled and the outcasts and bringing them healing and joy. St. Nicholas also has some healing stories in his repertoire, and he also brought joy to the poor. Now, you know, we think of Santa Claus bringing gifts, but when St. Nicholas did his work, he took the shortcut. He actually gave cold hard cash. Yes, he did. He gave coins in little sacks, and he would leave them in the shoes that people would leave at the doorway outside, and he would drop little coins in their shoes of those who were poor. And for some folks, the story goes, if they didn't leave their shoes out or he couldn't get to them, he would actually drop the money down the chimney. And in one case, it actually fell down and landed in someone's stocking that was drying by the fire. Hence, we have that tradition of hanging the stockings. And so that might have happened. Just saying. That's what I found. Both Santa Claus and Jesus had a follower named Peter. Jesus' disciple, Peter, you know, the one we read about, was Simon Peter, the first disciple he chose as he was beginning his ministry. In the Dutch tradition, Santa Claus, or Sinterklaas, had a follower named Black Pete. And the story of Black Pete is awkward for a whole lot of reasons. One of them being which, if the children were naughty, Black Pete would kidnap them and take them to Spain. That story is weird on a whole lot of levels. First of all, kidnapping children, no doubt they're scared, and apparently Spain was not seen in a positive light because you didn't want to go there. But great beaches, I hear. I wouldn't mind going to Spain on vacation. But anyway, so that's the story of Black Pete and Santa Claus. So they both got Peter going along with them. Yeah, Santa Claus and Jesus, hand in hand. They both have become the central figures for this time that we celebrate at Christmas. I wasn't supposed to speak today. Reverend Jennifer was. She's not here. I wasn't supposed to speak for one main reason. She doesn't like me to get near a pulpit at Christmas time. Here's why. Here's why. So Jennifer tends to be the more, how shall I put this, open, I think, of the two of us. She talks to her angels. She connects with that spirit realm a lot more intuitively than myself, I would say. I'm a little bit more the skeptic of the two of us, okay? So when the Christmas time comes up and we have this Christmas story, for me, the skeptical nature of me says, why, year after year, do we celebrate this story that we know didn't happen kind of the way it did? So we kind of have loggerheads. This is why we complement each other so well. We complement each other. The intellectual spirit grounded person, the more skeptical intellectual. When you look at how Unity was founded, it was kind of the same way with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. Charles Fillmore did a lot of work, research in all types of world religions, finding the central tenets of them, bringing it all back and tying it in with the Christian story. Myrtle was Charles, just sit down and pray. It didn't need to be proven for her. She just knew it intuitively. So we have that partnership. But that's what our Christmas story is all about too, especially when we look at this fourth Advent day that is about love, where we celebrate that love that led to this recognition and birth of the Christ child. We have the parents Mary and Joseph. And when we look at the Bible and we look at how metaphysically these stories speak to us, in other words, we don't look at them literally. We look at how each person, each character, each event, each story, everything in the Bible represents elements of our own spiritual journey and evolution. So we don't get caught up in the literalism of does it really happen this way or not. We get caught up in the who am I in this story and what does it mean for me? So Mary and Joseph representing those two elements that were integrated to really awaken that Christ nature. Joseph representing some would say the head, the wisdom, the intellect. Mary representing the heart, the love, the compassion. Unity has a unique theological contribution to Christianity. We say, I like to say about unity. When folks ask me to sum up unity in one statement, which is difficult at best, but I've come up with, I think, a statement that I think works really well. When people ask me, so what is unity? I said, unity is made up of people who want to be Buddhists, but they're not quite ready to let go of God yet. Think about that for a second. Because we're in unity. We love to meditate. We love to be all zen about things. We want to roll in our Eastern traditions. But for us, God still plays a central role in our lives. Did you know in Buddhism, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not? Did you know that about Buddhism? In Buddhism, God is irrelevant. Some may say in Buddhist, there is no God. That's not what Buddhism says. Buddhism says, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. What matters is how you live that eightfold path of spiritual unfoldment. That's what Buddhism tells you. And here in Unity, we kind of say the same thing. Now that God doesn't matter. Please, nobody quote me on that. But what we say in Unity is the God nature within us, that Christ nature that is within us, is what guides us on our spiritual evolution, our spiritual journey. The point in Unity is to live that out. And in Unity, Christmas is celebrating our awakening to that truth. In the Christmas story, a child was born, a babe was born who would transform the world. In us, when we become awakened to that Christ nature of ourselves, the true core of who we are, not our thoughts or memories or fears or goals, but something deeper than that. The thing that is deeper than us, that is bigger than us. When we become aware of that and we awaken to that and we endeavor to seek more of that and endeavor to live more of that, that's what the celebration of the Christ awakening in us is about. That's what really the meaning of Christmas is in Unity tradition. And Mary and Joseph, the parents, again, that wisdom and that love, they balance each other out. Because wisdom and judgment. And when I say judgment, I mean discerning, choosing. Wisdom without love can come across as cold, skeptic objectivity. Love without wisdom, well, that's just reckless. So they need each other to balance. And over the years, I've been falling out of love with the word balance. You know, we always talk about bringing balance to our lives. Not so much a fan of balance anymore. My new watchword is integrate. Integrate. Because balance implies more of one, less of the other, lopsided, switch it around. Integrate, however, means we're pulling the best of both. The best of both. And if you look at that Christmas story, the best of both of Mary and Joseph had come together. Mary, a girl who by all traditional accounts would have been 12 or 13 years old, being willing to say yes to this opportunity. Joseph, in his wisdom, being able to say, I will stay with you, regardless of what others may think, regardless of the appearance. Joseph being able to say at the time when their lives were in danger, let us flee after the birth. Joseph, the wise protector and guardian. Mary, the wise source of love. Integrated together. This too is our journey. This too is our journey. To live from that heart place of love, compassion, and to integrate the wisdom of our true higher selves. This is the Christmas story. So do your best as the season goes on not to get caught up in the literalness of the story. We know it didn't happen the way it's described. They may have been in a manger at the inn. It may not have been very peaceful. We look at the characters in the story, the shepherds in the fields, being disturbed by a host of angels, showing up at the birth, sheep in tow. They must have had the sheep. They couldn't have left the sheep out in the hills. They would have lost their jobs as shepherds. And the last thing a mother of a newborn needs is a bunch of sheep showing up. But they were probably there. We sing carols like the little drummer boy. You know very well that if a newborn was swaddling in a mother's arms and a kid showed up beating a drum, this probably would have been her response. Never wake a sleeping child. I don't care if he is the Messiah. Don't wake him up. So I'm going to implore you this season not to be like me, which is not something I'll say often. But don't be like me. Don't get caught up in the minutia of the details, the literalism. Don't get caught up in but it couldn't have happened this way, or, well, that's just silly. No. Look beyond all that. Look deeper. Look deeper into what this story says about you and the awakening of your Christ nature, because it is your awakening of that divine self. And you're living from that divine self that will transform you. And if you are transformed, those around you are transformed. And if they're transformed, the world is transformed. In 4 days, we celebrate the birth. We celebrate the birth of someone who would go on through his words, his teachings, his very life to transform us forever. When you sit with your family and you unwrap your presents on that day, remember, it's also about you unwrapping that divine self that you are and allowing it to shine. You are the transformation of the world, just as Jesus was. You are the light of the world, just as Jesus was. Your Christ nature will be celebrated just as Jesus's was. Namaste.